watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Hello to America's beautiful children. We love you. And so today it is Thursday. And on Thursdays, we have physical education with Coach. Hey, Coach.
Hey, how you doing, Christina?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. We got about 10 more days of school left, so I'm really excited, to be here, and thank you for the opportunity today.
Of course. And so how do you feel now that we are, 10, 11 weeks into this whole thing, right?
Right. I'm doing okay. I think that the most impactful part is just being in the house because I prefer to work outside. That's why I became a physical educator, to be outside in the wilderness and just to get the fresh air. And, I miss doing that daily as far as my classes are concerned, but I'm doing okay. And I'm finally getting the hang of, a home schooling. And so I think I'm a little bit more comfortable with, letting a lot of things go. I was really, really grateful for you had a guest, your last guest on, I think it was last Friday? Was it Isis? Was it last Wednesday?
Wednesday, yeah, because on Friday we did the International Day of Families message.
That's right. She really helped me because I know we have great conversations about, what school should look like for my son with his needs. And I think I had a scotoma where I'd hear what you would say, but I think because I'm so, rigid as far as being an educator and trying to meet those benchmarks that we're supposed to meet, that I just wasn't feeling it. And so when I hear a lot of others saying stuff, the same stuff you've been telling me, I'm like, oh, I can let it go, huh? Oh,
right. That rigidity with kids that are growing and developing becomes more of a challenge for us. Very, hard on them. And so like the flexibility is freedom, really. Right. And I think that homeschool allows that space for freedom. And you don't have to be always rigid. Yes, children do need to learn organization. Yes, children do need to understand planning and how to go throughout the day, but they're still children, right? And so we're teaching those things as they grow and develop. And I'm so glad. Shout out to my sister Isis.
Yes.
She has been able to reach, people with those fundamentals of learning, right?
Yeah.
So, I have to talk about parents. Make sure that if your children complain about pain, that you watch that. See if it escalates. See if, don't just excuse it away and say, well, maybe they're just trying to get out of work or something like that. And I'll give you an example. My son last week, I noticed like he was having some escalating pain in his legs. And at first I was like, maybe it's growing pain. Let me watch this, because he kept complaining like when he had to stand up. And then we usually go for a walk. And he was like, I cannot walk, mommy. Like while we were walking, he was like, my legs hurt. And so immediately I was like, pump my brakes. Okay. I am about to take him to the emergency room. And so I did. I took him over to Kaiser, and basically, after they x-rayed him and did some evaluations, they told me he has shin splints, right? Mm-hmm. And that he cannot be on his legs for the next 3 days. He needed to ice it every 3 hours for 20 minutes. And that also he needed to basically take his time when he was going back, because if you re-injure and have those shin splints, that'll be like a lifelong thing. So just to be very careful, and that came really from him doing too much physical activity, playing real hard. He was doing jumps on his scooter, jumps on the bike, walking. It was just a lot. And so it was, me listening to and observing that he was having a difficult time with walking. and standing. He wanted to lean, and just basically saying, this is the point where I'm going to take him to the doctor, right? So make sure you pay attention to things like that and do an observation and take them to get medical treatment when you see that type of situation escalating.
Right, right. I'm glad you shared that testimony with us, because today we're actually talking about injury prevention. And a lot of times we send our kids outside and, we're usually trying to, be behind the curve instead of in front of the curve when it comes to injuries. And how do we be proactive in a way that it's not that we're always micromanaging our kids, but we're showing them how to prevent injuries. And one way would be, shin splints come quite often. I'm not sure if you realize that.
When this is the first child that I had that has had shin splints. And, my daughter that's 22 right now, she even played basketball, for a while. And this is the first time she had some injuries, but not this time.
Right. Right. Well, a lot for basketball, she's on a flat surface. And I know your one son, Daniel, he plays outside on the grass, on the concrete, the different uneven surfaces. I suffer from shin splints. And my colleagues that I work alongside with me, we suffer from shin splints a lot because we stand on uneven surfaces. We're running on uneven surfaces. And that's a lot of pressure on those shin muscles. And that's one of the ways to prevent, not that's one of the ways, but one of the ways to prevent shin splints is stretching. We send our kids outside and we're like, go play, get it in. It's very important to stretch those muscles so that the muscles are free and they're loose and they're able to take that resistance or that pressure or that weight or that, switching directions, agility, being able to do that. So stretching would be one a way to prevent injuries that I would just suggest everybody to do before getting up and going to work, before going to the grocery store, before you go to bed. You should stretch. That's like my go-to for my kids is you need to stretch, because you never know, and this is your first time and you have older children. So to not see this in 20 something years, it's like, yes,
Right. So one of our viewers, my sister Kelly Williams Bolar, said, I had a student, he went a couple of weeks with his arm being broken, and his mother did not know that his arm was broken. We must pay attention. Yes, we have to pay attention. If you see your child's physical activity declining, and maybe they might have fell off their bike or fell off something, anything, or even their mood and behavior declining, there's something going on, and so you got to pay attention, ask questions. Are you okay? Do you feel any pain? Are you uncomfortable? Even because some people have a higher pain threshold than others, right? And so we can't assume that it's just going to go away. We have to be paying attention and making observations. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Oh yeah. So, if you're logging your PE minutes right now in your physical education log, today would be, I believe, day 86 or 87, 84. Today's day 84. Excuse me. Today's day 84. And when you're tracking your physical fitness activities, make sure that you're counting up all the time in one so that you're not all over the place. I know we've been doing this for a couple of weeks, but we haven't really focused in on that PE log. But again, you want to make sure you're making all your time into one so that you're getting at least 60 minutes a day. By this time, your child should be able to do 60 minutes straight a day. So make sure you're doing that. And another quick tip for today on injury prevention. When we talk about injury prevention, we're always talking about the weather, because that's most affects the students in PE at least. So for us here in California, in Lake Elsinore, it gets really, really hot. Inclement weather, it gets up into the 3-digit degrees. So we're talking about sun safety. A few serious sunburns can increase your child's risk for skin cancer. And a lot of people don't really know that. It doesn't have to be sunny, sunny, sunny outside to have sunscreen. It's really good to put sunscreen on, even on those gloomy days when the sun isn't out, because remember, the ultraviolet rays are still out.
Those UV rays, right.
Yeah, those UV rays, they're very, very, very harmful. And 80% of a child's sun exposure happens before the age of 18 because they're outside all the time. They're outside, they're at recess, they eat lunch outside. So you want to make sure that you're putting on that SPF sunblock at least 15 or above. I say 50, especially twice a day. And I know some schools, like our school district is a non-scented school, so you can't have anything scented in the environment. But as a parent, if you are sending your child back to the brick and mortar school this fall, you want to make sure you get a note from your doctor allowing them to put sunblock on in the nurse's office. That's something that parents don't realize, that if you have something that you really want your child to do, like for my children, they must wear sunblock, especially my middle boy. I have a doctor's note on file. The sunblock's in the nurse's office, and he's able to put it on whenever he wants to. Because again, too much sun hurts. And a lot of people don't know that. Too much sun hurts. And I'll tell you this, before I started working out, it makes you tired. It makes you tired. But just on the skin, I can feel a difference now that I work in this county. I've been teaching PE 24 years. And I've never worn sunblock until my last maybe 12 years of the 24 working in this county. The sun seems like it's eating at my skin. So now a woman of color, I have to wear sunblock. And I always thought I have a lot of melanin in my skin. I'm brown. I don't need to wear it, but it's very, very important. I tell my students, we are 31 flavors of ice cream. So if you are vanilla bean ice cream all the way to chocolate fudge, you must wear sunblock, you know. And then I'm sorry,
I want to say something about the sunblock, so that we'll be mindful as parents to pay attention. Like I buy and I have the unscented, and it's 70 SPF, right? Because I'm not playing with the sun. I live where it does get triple digits. You know, we're in the same county. It's a little bit hotter where I'm at. And so knowing that we're approaching the 120 degree to 128, I have the highest that I could find. But you have to be mindful that it does have a time frame, right? Before you need to reapply. And so even if, you know, you put your child's sunblock on in the morning, doesn't mean that it's going to be lasting all throughout the day. It has to be reapplied. You need to be paying attention to the label, finding out what is this half life, what is going on with the time frame, and so that way you could teach your child how to reapply the sunscreen, especially avoiding the eyes. You know, little children, you know, when they have stuff, they immediately start rubbing their eyes, nose, mouth. Well, we want to avoid certain areas, but also make sure we're protecting certain areas.
And, you know, I'm not a fan of the spray on sunscreen. That may be easy, but I think that you might miss some spots. And so if you do use the spray on, you want to make sure you're applying it. Not, you see some moms, they just shh their kids down. You want to make sure that you're covering that skin, because again, our children's skin is very, very more sensitive than ours, and it's still growing. You know, it's a cell, it's an epithelial cell. It's the fastest growing cell, but it's the most precious at young ages. And so that's why it's very, yes, right? And so another thing is not only sunblock, when we're talking about sun safety, you want to wear a hat. And a lot of parents don't realize a cap is not good enough, because a cap just covers the front. Cap doesn't cover ears, doesn't cover the back of the neck. You all don't know, but I have this really big water hat. It's a Raider water hat. And it covers, When I'm standing with my students, I can cross my arms and my hat covers my arms. So you want to make sure you're
Right.
wearing a hat, not a cap that covers ears and shoulders, neck, and especially the face. If you're not putting sunblock on the face, you want to make sure that you're wearing some type of hat. And then stay out of the sun between the hours of 10 and 4. When we get to those extreme temperatures at midday, 10 to 4 is really when it's extremely hot. And if you are able to set the time frame when your kids are going outside, you want to make sure you're not going out in the peak of the heat. And that's really 10 to 4 o'clock in this county. Drink plenty of water. Drink plenty of water, and not when you're thirsty. Drink water when you're not thirsty. Just drink it, because first sign of dehydration is thirst, right? So you want to make sure that you're drinking plenty of water, especially if you're going to be sending your kids back to school. A lot of parents gave me a lot of flack when I would request that they send their children with bottled water. And I'm like, the pipes could go bad anytime. The water could be off anytime. The water could be contaminated at any time. So you want to make sure that you're providing your child with that water, and not the sports drinks. I'm not a fan of sports drinks. They're great, don't get me wrong, but I think that our bodies, because they're made up of 90% or so of water, why would I drink a sports drink? I'm not made of a sport drink, and it has a lot of sugar. So we want to teach also healthy options. Salt. Yeah, and salt, right? We think about
thirstier.
Yeah, it makes you thirsty. Salt dries you out. A lot of people think, oh, I want some lemonade on this fine day. Lemonade dries you out. Totally. Like, come on, lemonade. Anywho,
so I have to say that I don't use like those sports drinks anymore. But what I do use 100% coconut water. And that 100% coconut water is basically, what is an electrolyte too.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah, I think, are you freezing? I think you're freezing. But
I was freezing. I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. As long as our parents are okay. Give us a thumbs up if you're okay, parents. So when you're preventing injuries, we think about sun all the time, but you have to think outside the box, because as a PE teacher, my job is to make sure that the children are safe. So what does that look like as a parent PE teacher? When you send your kids outside before they go out, it's very, very key for you to go check the area. Right now, the temperatures are getting a little hotter. And in our region, we're having a lot of rattlesnakes coming out. We were working in the yard on the 19th, and we had a rattlesnake. So you want to make sure that you're checking the yard, especially if it's places untouched, because kids will go out and just go out. You want to make sure you're checking the holes, the gopher holes, because they're hiding in places with the temperatures getting hotter. They're coming out. Mosquitoes are coming out. You want to make sure that the holes in the ground are not large, that your children's feet can get caught in. That's what I do before I do have my class. We would check the field, mark off all the spots that are not safe. So you want to make sure that you do that. In addition to that, if your students or your children are going out playing a sport like football or even soccer in the backyard, you want to make sure you're putting on shin guards when your kids are outside playing soccer, even in the backyard, because you don't want any injuries. Again, with us being in COVID, the hospitals are inundated with a lot of sick people who are infected with the coronavirus. So to be proactive, you want to make sure you're not going to the doctor unexpectedly for something you could have prevented, And then following.
Can you hear me? Am I freezing?
I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so I have to talk about that rattlesnake awareness and being cautious. And so a lot of people may or may not know this about me. My son, Daniel, who is now 9, was bitten by a baby rattlesnake, when
Right.
he was 22 months old.
Right.
Okay. And we didn't understand that the snakes come out at dusk. Really, it wasn't just in the middle of the day. They come out at dusk. They're out at night. Until he got bitten, then I became a rattlesnake expert. Right.
Right. Crazy, right?
Right. And he got life-flighted to the Venom ER, treated by Dr. Sean Bush, who was a Venom ER specialist at the time, with 22 vials of anti-venom. And I didn't, I had to process through that time because I didn't know what that was going to look like. He's a baby, but thank God he came out of the other side of that. However, we're very cautious about, our surroundings. When is rattlesnake season, right? Rattlesnake season starts at the first higher than 85-degree temperatures really in March in where
Right.
we're at. And so, we're very aware of watching the weather and knowing that now is the season.
Right.
And so paying attention to our surroundings. I do have to say that not all rattlesnakes rattle, right? They're shedding their skin. If they're babies, they haven't developed a lot of rattles. And so, just be very cautious of your surroundings.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, parents don't know that PE teachers do that on a daily basis. We have to check our surroundings because they're hiding in gopher holes. They're hiding in spaces that you would never know until you get a issue, and then we have to deal with it. So moving forward with some of our other preventions, when we go swimming, we take our kids swimming. If you have a local pool that you're able to go to right now, with us being at a stay in place order, you always want to swim with a buddy. If you want to swim with a buddy, to make sure that your children are safe, they have an accountability partner, that they're learning how to swim by taking a class. You don't want to just go, oh, let's go swimming, and your child doesn't know how to swim. You want to give your child the best opportunity that they can get by getting a class. Swim where there's a lifeguard. Once we come off of this situation, a lot of people are going to go to the beach. You want to make sure there's a lifeguard that certifies first aid CPR so that you're safe, right? Activities on wheels. What am I talking about? When you take your kids bike riding, we have to also be proactive to prevent injuries. You want to wear a helmet. And maybe even wrist guards when you're riding on a bike or scooters or skateboards. You want to make sure that you're protecting your wrist, because the first thing that you put down when you go for a fall is your wrist, right? Ride only at daylight hours. Again, because, at night stuff comes out, snakes come out, you want to ride when it's nice and bright and not dark. Stay away from traffic and busy streets when you're, activities on wheels. And that way you're not getting used to a lifestyle that's unsafe. When the kids get a little bit older, 15, 16, they want to take risks and they want to, take the skateboard and fly it down the hill, right? Well, if we teach our kids to be proactive, even if they do go flying down the hill, they will be protected so that you're not left with a lifelong situation that you can't turn back. So I hope I gave you some tips about preventing injuries. And I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be of service and to try to come with some ideas and just give some help when I can, and answer any questions if we have any. And
so tell the people how they can find you.
Okay, so if you want to email me, I put my email right next to my name. It's jrobinsonpeclass@gmail.com. I'm also on Facebook under Akle Robinson. That is AKALE Robinson, ROBINSON, if you want to reach me on Facebook.
So we appreciate you here at National Parents Union. Thank you for spending your time with us on Thursdays to give all of this vital information. Sorry to the viewers for the freezing up. I do not know what's going on. My
Right.
signal is strong, but we just had to bear with it. And so she did give some vital tips, and I hope that they help you thrive. You've been watching Managing Day to Day with me, Christina Laster, and National Parents Union. We'll see you again tomorrow on the National Parents Union Facebook Live. I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Don't forget to tune in to our other shows that are featured throughout the day. Also, to look up that Family Bill of Rights that we have shared so you know what your voices are being heard, about what it would require safety-wise, right? And financing, even equity and educational financing, right? And what it would require for our children to be able to enter back into school safely. So check that out. If you have any questions, you can contact me, Christina at npunion.org. Always here, always readily accessible and available to answer your hard questions or even hear the feedback that you may have. So I hope you're all well. I hope you're all thriving. Goodbye, America's beautiful children. We love you, and we'll see you tomorrow, Managing Day to Day, tomorrow, the same time, same place. Bye-bye.